And an old friend has stopped by. Hello, Congressman Shimkus.
Bub, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Me too, man. How about this weather?
It's been great. About 7 days ago, we were really wet and sloppy, and of course, we had my farmers complaining.
Yeah.
But they've had enough. You dry it out, and they're back out, and I think they'll be able to get all their stuff in.
And there's only so much a congressman can do about the rain, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You start bragging about the weather, then they start blaming you for the weather. So I try to stay out of that.
We were coming up through Kentucky and southern Illinois, and it's just starting to get gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I was in Marshall, and I was down in Union County yesterday. It's not my district, but I was there. It's started to turn and be really nice.
That time of year. And closing in on the election, aren't we?
Oh, is there election?
Yeah.
Who would have guessed?
Is there some mudslinging going on these days?
Oh, my. Well,
lots of stuff to do.
Lots of stuff to do. I think people who are set in what they want to do, I would encourage them they can vote early. The early voting started. And so then you might get a few less calls when you do that, because then you get off of targeted list. Now you'll still get the mailing. Maybe you get off mailing list too. Yeah. But you'll still, if you're a TV watcher though, you can't be protected.
Why we have TiVo. Issues at hand. Let's talk fracking. I know it's everywhere. The folks in North Dakota are making a fortune.
It's everywhere but here.
Everywhere but here. So where do you stand, John?
Well, we're very supportive of it and disappointed with the state not moving quicker. I mean, there was a bipartisan piece of legislation, and then when they rolled out the rules, the Illinois Oil and Gas Association was saying, hey, wait, this is not what we agreed to. Having said that, there's supposed to be a report come out, imagine this, November 6th. Mm-hmm. My gut tells me it'll allow us to move forward at some speed. Now the question is whether it's quick enough to really take advantage of it, because now you're seeing obviously a moderation in the crude oil prices, and you see gas prices going down. Yeah. If it's difficult for these oil and gas guys to set up and operate and recover oil, and they have that lower cost of crude oil as a benchmark, they're going to do some calculations, and maybe they'll say it's not the time. I hope it is. I mean, I've got counties that are they're ready to go. They know they've lived through this before in the 40s and the 50s when we were really a major oil producing area for this country, and I think we're ready for it again.
Can be again. The big talk and two very big topics, Ebola, the big scare. So far, so good. Illinois, we've had a couple of folks under quarantine. What's being done to remedy that?
Well, I think because of it was very frustrating for a lot of us with the response from the CDC, and then people in the infectious disease community saying, hey, we were trained by the CDC, we were trained to this standard, but they're telling us a lesser standard. So there was an outcry even before, and then we see this, obviously, the contraction of the disease by a healthcare professional, the nurse, because maybe they weren't fully complying with what was really trained, and they were following guidelines. So that got people pretty concerned. Then you have the one person who has had contact on the flight, you got another one on a cruise ship, and that's why I, like many members of Congress on both sides, said, hey, maybe we should pull the passports or pull the visas of people from these countries, because if the goal is contain and then get to the source and then fix the source problem, why would you allow migration and in closed compartments and stuff? An airplane's pretty closed compartment. I fly them in all the time. So we, along with many folks, have called for that, and of course, I don't even know why it's even a debate back and forth, but if someone had an infectious disease in a hospital, they would isolate them.
Right.
So that's all we're trying to talk about internationally. The administration doesn't support that. Now, it looks like we might be getting a little bit of a handle on it in this country. But anyway, I would rather us destroy the threat in Africa versus have all these entry points where the threat could then spread again. But That's my position, and that's not the one that the administration holds right now.
Now, in regards to ISIS, we had a story yesterday about some teenage girls in Colorado who had flown to Germany to join the team, if you will. How bad is this getting?
Well, it's Islamic radicalism, whether it's there or as it spreads in this jihadist mentality and through what some people would say is a distortion of Islam. Islam has always been kind of a conversion by the sword type of a religion. So I use the word ISIL versus ISIS because L stands for Levant, which is a geographical area going back to 500 AD when there was the first caliphate, the first Islamic jihad took over, and that's south of Turkey all the way to Egypt. So it takes into our friends, the Jordanians. It takes into the Israelis. And that really shows you the threat of ISIL if it's going to want to create a new caliphate in a region where we have allies. So this is one where I support the president with the airstrikes. I think he's shown to have really a lack of vision and a lack of leadership. And he's doing crisis management. But these airstrikes, I support them from day one. And the boots on the ground, I would support us using local nationals, Jordanians, Iraqis, Syrians to fight ISIL, hopefully in turning the tide before any real commitment of U.S. Boots on the ground. Now, we do have some there, probably about 1,200, that are helping and assisting and maybe targeting, but not fully engaged in how we would define combat operations.
Hard to beat someone who has nothing to lose, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's a never-ending battle.
Yeah. It's scary. And then just again with the attacks in Canada yesterday, it's just a different world than you and I grew up in. It's the threat, the international terror threat is at our doorstep. It could be anywhere, any place, any time. It really talks about how does the U.S., the federal government, the national government, move about protecting its citizens. And you get into these debates about communications and how and when legal court orders, and how do you listen in on conversations, or at least see a data flow into foreign countries. These girls, right, or this guy from Canada, there was some communication in Syria. Now, you have to be able to at least get permission when you get a threat, and then you can put the dots together, and there's a call from and a return call from a controlled area of ISIL. Then we ought to be able to listen into those communications.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. On a local level, something that used to be very near and dear to our hearts, can it ever be brought back to prominence? What is going on with Eagle Creek?
Yeah, you've got some great local reps that have been beating up the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and that's obviously the senator, Chad, and the like of, and the frustration is that you should be able to put together a business model for you should be able to put a business model to encourage someone to tear down and rebuild a long-term contract and take advantage of that great asset. So
why is it so difficult?
I just think it's a fact. I think it's just there's really no desire upon the executive branch of the state government to move on this. I mean, I think you could put together a business model with the right package that would encourage someone and have a bidding process, but I just don't think it's that it's a priority for. And again, I probably misspoke. I mean, it's Chapin. Chapin's been all over this, and he continues to scream and holler and do what he can to get their attention.
Chapin?
Yeah, I know it's hard to believe, but he does keep me well posted. I was on that conference call with him when we finally said, and my part was to say, hey, we're cool with the core. Core is not an issue.
Yeah.
It's ID&R. I'm hoping for a change in actually Springfield, where we get a businessman who might be able to help us make a business case for that.
Yeah, well, hope so. Hate to see it, go the way it's going right now. I know you'll never want me to say this. You don't do it for the awards, but congratulations, Guardian of Small Business Award.
Yeah, there's a lot of groups and associations that follow your votes, and they want to then recognize you or thank you, especially when you have 33 counties in the state of Illinois. Most of the operations and most of the job creators are small businessmen.
Where would we be without them?
So, and then what we do, they do it at the state, we do it at the federal level. When we try to fix everybody's problem, we increase the regulatory burden and the paperwork burden. Well, big corporations can kind of handle that because they have a HR department. But in small business, the HR department is the owner, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Or the wife.
Yeah.
And so we continue to try to cast votes to make sure we identify that difference and encourage people to raise capital, which means borrowing money.
Sure.
These folks who do that, they're pretty amazing because they have an idea and but they have to make the business case. They borrow money, assume a risk. All they want to do is try to have some success. So I'm glad that they see me as a supporter of that line of work, because those are what really make small town America grow. Is the small business community.
Amen. Something to be proud of.
Something to be proud of. That's
well,
right.
It's always great to talk to you. And if folks need to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do it?
Well, house.gov/Shimkus. They could just Google Congressman Shimkus. There's a congressional site, which is the House one. There's also a campaign arm. They're not connected. 618-288-7190 is the Maryville office, but we have an office in Harrisburg. We have one in Danville.
Effingham.
And up in Effingham's the closest one here, and that's in the administration building up on the third floor. They've been very kind to help give us an office there. So, and then we're around. We do open office hours and you guys do a great job in letting people know when we're going to be in a community. And
next week in Mattoon.
See?
Yeah, see, there it is.
Gave you an opportunity. You took advantage.
Thank
Great.
you. Open window. I jumped through. Always great to see you. Best of luck in the election, and come see us again real soon.
I will. Thanks a lot.